What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft, how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about this heat. Oh, man. Y'all, I am not looking forward to these coming days. And today actually kicks off the heat wave for us. And we're going up to 105. And they keep upping the temperature every day. So there is a heat dome over the East Coast all the way through Texas. And some states are going to actually hit 115 degrees. So, yes, it is hot. It is hot right now where I am. We're going to be in the 90s today, and starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're in triple digits every single day. So the only thing I can do is pray the power don't go out. The last time, which was a week ago, we were in a heat wave. Power was flickering a few times, but we did not actually go all the way out. So I am grateful about that. But you know how it is when the temperature is high, everybody is running that AC on high. So all I can do is hope that we get through it. I sure won't like being in triple digits for 3 days in a row, but it is what it is. All right. Let me share my screen. Okay, y'all. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Now, I was listening to a meteorologist last night, and he was saying this summer in the US, we could have some states reaching 127 degrees. I cannot even imagine anything like that. I mean, I could see in the desert areas, but they're talking 127. They said that's how extreme this El Nino is this year. It's very extreme. In fact, they said they never historically seen one like this one ever in American history. So we're going to be seeing some really higher than normal temperatures in summer 2026. So y'all, thank you for the ones. Thank you very much. All right, so
we do have one more day of critical fire danger in the Intermountain West, with red flag warnings flying again tomorrow for dangerously low levels of humidity. Yes, it is a little bit cooler, but the wind's kicking up, and they'll get cooler and more still as this heat dome builds east of it, and that's going to be a top-to-bottom number. So we're really going to bake clear skies in most of these spots, and that strong late June sun really going to work on things. So we have excessive heat warnings out for so many cities: Nashville, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Des Moines, you name it, all the way back through Chicago. Now Detroit's in the mix, and an extreme heat watch in effect for the Northeast cities, which means they'll be in a warning here by the time Wednesday comes around, when temperatures will get up and over 100 degrees. With the humidity, we'll feel much more than that. But these red numbers are measured in the shade without humidity. 100 plus in Philly, DC. And if we get to 100 here in the New York City area, that will be the first time since 2010. There will be some storms around the edge of this, but the big story will be the dangerous heat going into the holiday. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much.
It's this big heat dome that will develop, strengthen, and grow in size over much of the plains and Midwest for an extended period, and this does include Independence Day weekend. And it will expand into parts of the East Coast and it'll linger a little bit longer for us East Coasters. Here's what it looks like, though. It's just this high-pressure heat ridge bringing record-breaking heat. This is not just a couple of degrees above average. This is potentially some of the warmest temperatures ever recorded for certain dates across the certain cities. So heat alerts through Saturday. We have an extreme heat warning from Minneapolis down through Kansas City. World Cup games being played in Kansas City in the next few days. So if you are a fan or a player who could be listening, make sure you hydrate as much as possible. Take frequent breaks in the shade. It's an outdoor stadium. This heat going to be very, very just cumbersome just as a whole. Then you have extreme heat watches that include Nashville, northern Mississippi, and even parts of the Jersey Shore and into Philadelphia. New York City not quite under that extreme heat watch, but it's coming. Don't worry. Those heat alerts will expand off towards the east. If you're under red, you're wondering what it is. It means dangerous heat possible in the next few days. Heat advisory, dangerous heat ongoing or expected within the next 12 hours. And if you are under an extreme heat warning, like Kansas City, like Minneapolis, extremely dangerous heat is occurring as we speak. So temperatures are pushing already this morning into the upper 80s, 90s in some cases. That temperature with the heat index on top of it, Omaha, feeling more like 93. Now for Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, La Crosse, you're probably thinking, why are we under an extreme heat alert? It's 68 degrees. Well, the heat is going to be building throughout the day today. You have some thunderstorms that are rolling through, helping to create that rain-cooled air. Behind it, though, you'll still see this big surge of moisture. Another thing that you have to deal with in the Midwest, corn sweat. I love to talk about it. Why not? My family, they throw big parties in my uncle's cornfield. So if you do party in a cornfield for the 4th of July, this is something you have to deal with. What happens is, you are irrigating and you're putting a lot of water on your corn crops, and that moisture is then eventually released back into the atmosphere through evapotranspiration. So you have transpiration from the leaves, and then that water that's sitting, the dew on the leaves, then gets pumped into the atmosphere. One stalk of corn can produce 3 to as much as 4 gallons worth of water and release it into the atmosphere per day. Now, it has to be the perfect conditions for that, but imagine hundreds of thousands of corn stalk in certain parts of Nebraska and into Iowa. That can really bump up the humidity, and those dew points are going to be quite cumbersome, pushing 70s to 80s. That can also cause some sporadic thunderstorms as well, so something to keep in mind. Then for the East Coast, extreme heat watches from Atlantic City up towards Philadelphia, Trenton. Again, New York, we are not under a heat alert yet. That will change. The forecast for those of you along the East Coast, you can see, is that heat switches for tomorrow. 101 into Chicago, 99 in Pittsburgh for Tuesday. Wednesday, 102 in New York, 110 for Washington, D.C. So for my ladies out there, make sure that you have a lot of hairspray and a lot of setting powder.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with the life-threatening heat moving in across much of the country tonight, potentially record-breaking temperatures. Philadelphia, New York City, Boston about to get hit with heat index readings of 100 degrees or more for several days. This has already settled into the middle of the country. More than 150 million Americans tonight under these dangerous heat alerts. The heat index in Chicago today, it felt like 102 degrees. Alerts tonight from Kansas all the way to the Northeast. The Northeast will soon feel like triple digits. Firefighters in the Chicago area battling flames amid that brutal heat at the same time. And the wildfires we're watching tonight, 3 firefighters killed near the Colorado River. They deployed their emergency shelters in the middle of the flames, trying to survive it. This extreme heat now making its way. Its move east. Lee Goldberg standing by with the full forecast tonight at ABC's Faith Abu.
All right, y'all. I want y'all to remember this coming Saturday is the 4th of July, America's 250th year anniversary in D.C. And it's going to be 110 degrees on that day in Washington, D.C. I tell you what, the Most High definitely got a sense of humor because, you know, you can't have all them old, you know, all these people going down there. They gonna fry. They're gonna fry down there. Yes, 110 degrees this coming Saturday. America's 250th year anniversary in DC, it will be 110 on that day. So, oh well, I'm definitely going to be watching things.
Leading us off from Chicago.
Tonight, a dangerous dome of extreme heat is spreading from the Midwest to the East Coast, threatening to break all-time records.
This is the time to check in on our neighbors.
102-degree heat index in the Chicago suburbs today. Firefighters sweltering in full gear while tackling a fire in Inglewood. Minneapolis feeling like 103 degrees today. And Kansas City, 105 degrees. The extreme heat fueling extreme storms. Straight line winds over 100 miles an hour, taking out these massive wind turbines in Highmore, South Dakota. Heat warnings also up in Tennessee and Kentucky, where they are still cleaning up from devastating floods that killed at least 5 people. The force of the rushing floodwaters was so powerful that it hurled debris like this onto many roadways, and even a small creek like this one swelled enough to peel the asphalt off this bridge. In the West, where nearly 40 large wildfires are burning in 9 states, firefighters taking time to honor the fallen after the Snyder fire that forced more than 100 campers and rafters to evacuate a stretch of the Colorado River took the lives of 38-year-old firefighter Emily Barker, 27-year-old Nick Hutcherson, and 27-year-old Sydney Watson. Authorities say they were trapped, and despite deploying emergency shelters, they could not survive the fast-moving flames. And David, here in the Chicago area, you can see people behind me doing everything they can to beat the heat. And local officials are sounding the alarm about the brutally hot temperatures. They're setting up cooling shelters and also using robocalls to alert some 31,000 vulnerable seniors to take precautions. David.
Yeah, we got to look out for our neighbors over these next several days. Faith Abube leading us off. Faith, thank you.
Do you live anywhere in this orange zone? If so, a major and widespread heat wave is now underway in the eastern half of the U.S. and will continue through the entirety of July 4th weekend. And if you live in the dashed area, that is where you really need to pay attention. I'm meteorologist Andrew Markowitz, and here's the full breakdown of what to expect in your area. A massive dome of high pressure is building over the eastern U.S., and once it does, it will remain fairly stagnant. The core of the heat will be concentrated over the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and Northeast, where temperatures are going to be more than 10 degrees above average. How hot are we talking? Well, most areas will likely peak in the mid to upper 90s, and some places could even exceed 100. In fact, the official forecast from the National Weather Service has highs getting to the low 100s from North Carolina to Massachusetts on July 2nd and July 3rd. This includes Charlotte, Raleigh, Norfolk, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Wilmington, Philly, Harrisburg, Allentown, pretty much all of New Jersey, New York City, Hartford, Providence, and Boston. High temperatures in the region could max out around 103, 104, or even 105, which would not only challenge daily records, but would be one of the hottest days that we have seen in recent years. But it's not just the heat, it's also the humidity, as dew point values surge into the 70s. As a result, most areas will see heat index values in excess of 100 degrees, and many areas could see it reaching the mid to upper 100s. In fact, some parts of the Mid-Atlantic could reach or even exceed 110. As a result, a large chunk of the U.S. is currently under a heat advisory in the orange, an extreme heat warning in the dark purple, and an extreme heat watch in the maroon. Now, before anybody says it, yes, it is summer. It is supposed to be hot, and we have seen heat waves before. This is not earth-shattering news. But when you tack on humidity to peak, if not record-challenging heat, that is when things become elevated to potentially dangerous levels. This is for two main reasons. One, it's because your body will struggle to cool down because sweat will have a harder time evaporating. And the second, it's because low temperatures will not drop off as much at night, which does not provide relief. So now we're going to walk you through day by day of which areas need to be most mindful of the heat. On Monday, June 29th, the main area of concern will be this red zone, indicating major heat-related impacts from the Twin Cities southeastward to Tampa. This includes much of the Midwest and Southeast. On Tuesday, June 30th, major heat-related impacts extend eastward to the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and interior Northeast. Meanwhile, extreme levels are favored in places like Madison, Cedar Rapids, Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Nashville, and Atlanta. On Wednesday, July 1st, major heat-related impacts extend into the Northeast megalopolis. Extreme levels are favored in places like Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Louisville, Nashville, Knoxville, and Atlanta. On Thursday, July 2nd, extreme heat is once again favored in those aforementioned areas, but also including Greenville, Charleston, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Harrisburg, State College, Rochester, Albany, Hartford, Providence, Boston, Manchester, and Portland. The most impactful day will be on Friday, July 3rd, as extreme levels cover nearly 85 million Americans. This includes Atlanta, Nashville, Louisville, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Wilmington, most of New Jersey, New York City, Albany, Syracuse, Hartford, and Boston. On the 4th of July, extreme levels are once again favored for nearly 60 million Americans, including Nashville, Knoxville, Charleston, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Charlotte, Raleigh, Norfolk, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, the entire state of Delaware, most of New Jersey, and New York City. And on Sunday, July 5th, some relief will finally begin to filter in from the north and west, but extreme levels continue across the Delmarva and the Carolinas. Additionally, each day could see ridge-riding thunderstorms across portions of the Midwest and Northeast, which is typical during these ring of fire setups. This includes elevated risk for an intense and long-tracking MCS, though there currently is not a discernible threat. Stay cool, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and I hope all of you have a fun, relaxing holiday weekend, but you do so safely and responsibly. For continuous coverage of this major heat wave and other severe weather all around the world, please make sure to follow me on all social media platforms so you can stay weather aware.
Chicago knows, perhaps better than any other city in America, the dangers of extreme weather and particularly heat. In fact, 31 years ago, Chicago experienced the deadliest heat wave in the United States history. We lost more than 700 Chicagoans. Most of them were elderly or from vulnerable communities. Let's do what Chicagoans do best. Let's look out for one another. Also, please stay hydrated. If you can, stay inside with air conditioning on. If you do not have air conditioning, keep your blinds closed but windows slightly open. DFSS offers 6 community cooling areas across our city, and you are certainly able to get relief from the heat in any park district, library, city college, or police district location during their respective hours of operation. DFSS street outreach workers will be in our communities this week to ensure that our unhoused Chicagoans are connected to those cooling centers. OEMC and the National Weather Service will work closely together this week, continuing their efforts to share alerts and resources so that we can stay informed.
Here's the latest information on the developing heat wave in the U.S. So a massive heat dome is expanding across the U.S., with around 200 million Americans now facing dangerous heat from the Midwest to the East through 4th of July. Cities like Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York could see temperatures near or above 100 degrees, with humidity pushing feel-like temperatures past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And the biggest risk will be those very warm overnight lows that'll offer very little relief after sunset. Forecasters are also watching the Gulf and Southern Atlantic, where storms along the edge of this system could try to organize as we head into early July. At the same time, France just recorded its hottest national day on record, with some areas reaching nearly 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Biggest advice here: hydrate, limit your midday exposure, check on others. Again, this is a big heat wave, and make sure you follow your local TV, news stations, and National Weather Service for official guidance. This is the Intel Desk. Stay locked in.
Hey, everybody, we are staring down what is a very dangerous heat wave. It's not just because of the intensity. It's because such a large area is being covered by extreme heat risk. Something like 150 million people, like half, almost half of the population of the U.S., seeing feels-like temperatures this week peaking between 105 and 115 degrees. Hey, everybody, I'm Chief Meteorologist and Climate Specialist Jeff Berardelli, and that is really the headline. Sure, this is an intense heat wave, but I think more so it's the longevity and how large this heat wave is that really kind of makes it stand out. And part of the reason is it's being fueled by El Nino and by climate change to some degree as well. We'll be talking about that as well. So the heat dome's around through the holiday weekend, although it does flatten out a little bit over the holiday weekend. Watch these feels like temperatures. St. Louis, 105. Chicago, 103. Nashville, 104. Watch the heat move to the east. DC 109, New York City maybe up to 110, and the nooks and crannies up to 115 degrees. And even over the holiday weekend, it still is dangerous, especially for people that have compromised health or don't have air conditioning. I showed you the heat index numbers, but what about the actual temperatures? Something like 60 million people will exceed or get to 100 degrees this week, mainly along the I-95 corridor. Places like Boston, 104, is that possible? 103 in Hartford, maybe 105 in DC, challenging a couple of all-time heat records for cities and even maybe a state or two. That's how hot it's going to be on Thursday and Friday. But when you look at the ranking, we can kind of quantify, historically speaking, how strong this heat wave is. And most of it is in red, meaning it's somewhere around the 99 percentile, not necessarily the hottest it's been. That's the 100 percentile. And there are some patches of that too. So it's not quite an unprecedented heat event in terms of its intensity, but in terms of its longevity, in terms of its size, and combining the intensity, this is definitely a memorable event. Now, one of the reasons this is going to be memorable is because El Nino is helping to spike and amplify this. The water temperatures in the El Nino region are just off the charts hot. We are definitely headed towards a super El Nino at record pace, by the way. That distributes a lot of heat into the atmosphere from the Pacific Ocean. You can see the heat dome across the Pacific, but also the real story, obviously, this week is the huge heat dome happening in the eastern half of the country, a real big one with those feels like temperatures to 115. But yet another heat wave is about to take place in Europe. That's just after the worst heat wave in European history, where it got to 112 in France, breaking the all-time Florida record. And there was a study done on this, and officially, this past heat wave in Europe was the worst on record. It was virtually impossible 50 years ago. Climate change made it something like 6 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than it otherwise would have been, which basically means that just about a few decades ago, a heat wave on par with that could not have happened.
Okay. Yes, we're having a super El Nino. Yes, we are. That's why they're saying they don't know what's really going to happen now that it's here. You know, y'all, we could be having a very warm fall this year because it's supposed to be very extreme. So, yeah, I mean, I am not looking forward to this. And I notice every time I look at the weather, the temperature keeps going up. Every time I look at it, it keeps going up. So I already know, we already know we're going to be in triple digits and it's going to be extremely hot. But it's supposed to be hot all up and down the East Coast and the Midwest. That's where most of the dome is. But they are saying that it's getting bigger every day. So it's expanding across more states every day. Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on Donald Trump's America's celebration down there in DC on Saturday. Sure hope you weren't planning on having no parades, Donald Trump. It's going to be very hard for a marching band. Do you know how they got to be dressed? I mean, they can't be out there in that heat the way they're dressed with those big hats and those uniforms. That's not made for no warm weather. That not no 100-degree weather. They'll literally pass out. Yeah, over in Europe, they're having a heat wave. I think 13, the last time I looked, which was early this morning, the casualties, I believe, is up to 1,400 people have lost their lives during the heat wave over in Europe. They got an extreme one over there too. So it is hot. It is hot. Donald Trump spent a lot of money And yeah, and he spent $14 million on the reflecting pool and messed it up. So $14 million and he messed it up. Well, remember, all of the entertainment canceled on him. He was supposed to have all these acts, singers, people singing. And every single one backed out of the whole thing. Hi, Cap. How you doing? Shalom. Install sunblock curtains and aluminum foil on the windows as well. Well, I got blackout curtains and they actually work really well. That's what I have. But thank you for your support for my channel. I deeply appreciate it. I have blackout curtains, and not so much on the first floor, but on the second floor, I have them because, that's where it gets hottest because the sun is beating down on your roof. So, and they do work. They really do. Donald Trump's orange behind and 110 degrees. Yeah. So since he lost all of his entertainment, Donald Trump is going to do a rally. I said, oh boy, him babbling for 2 straight hours. Although he may not do that, because how is this 80-year-old man going to be babbling in extreme heat? He may get up and talk for a bit. He ain't going to be up there long. I doubt it. That is very extreme weather for somebody to be having a rally and talking and all that stuff the way he likes running his mouth. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work out. So y'all, I guess we going to be in for one all summer long. I guess we going to be in for something all summer long. I mean, I know the sun don't affect us in the same way, but after a certain temperature, it is hot. I don't care what melanin you got. It's hot as hell. So y'all, I got my next live coming up at 3:45. Donald Trump lost in court on the birthright citizenship. So we're going to be talking about that at 3:45. The Supreme Court ruled against him, which means foreigners that had babies in this country that were born here are still considered citizens. But we all know Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to sit on this. He's going to present it again. He's going to do it again. You watch. This ain't it. Because you know how Donald Trump is. If he don't get the answer he wants, he'll go elsewhere. Okay, but this will come up again. He will not let this go. So y'all, I will see you at 3:45. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Cap. And I will see you then. Shalom, family.